Hello for the 28th Sunday in Ordinary Time, and we're going to talk about or pray about how do I pray? And I'm using the first reading and the gospel. The first reading is Exodus 17, 8 to 13, and Luke 18, 1 to 8. How do I pray? There are many different kinds of prayers, you know. There's adoration where you adore God and thank God. Thanksgiving, there's another way of praying. Petition is probably the most common way of praying and so forth, but there's all different kinds of praying. Do you pray? And how do I pray? I think that's sort of a good question. I think Jesus is interested in that question or part the answer. How do I really pray? Well, I think we can look to those two readings and we can get some insight into what Jesus thinks or how God thinks how we should pray. What do you want first? The gospel or the first reading? Let's take the gospel. Well, the gospel is Jesus in showing us or telling us how to pray uses a parable, a little story. That there was this widow who had a problem with her lawyer or the judge, and she wanted the judge to make a quick decision. So she keeps running back and forth to the judge and says, have you made your decision? Make your decision now. I need it now. Please, please. And in the story that Jesus we just read, he says this judge becomes weary of this woman, and he says she's going to kill me. She's going to exhaust. I can't stand this. I gotta get her off my back and give her her request. A just decision. And so, according to the parable, well, you should pray to God and ask Him for what you want. Oh, you can say, I'm sorry for my sins, reparation, or you can say, thank you. Well, what do you want? In Jesus' story, he gives the thing that the way this woman and most people pray, apparently, is petition. Over and over again, ask God for something or for help. That's sort of the gospel. Well, what about the first reading? The first reading, Jesus, the Jews and Moses are in a battle. And in the battle, Moses goes up at the top of the hill. And as their form of one of the things they did when they prayed, they raised their hand to God. And Moses raised his arms and his hands to God in prayer. And he was watching the battle down in the valley, but he kept on praying to God, the sky or heaven, that's how they thought of it. And that's what they did. They would raise their hands to God and pray and ask God for help. Help our people in the battle. Petition. Ask, ask, ask. Well, they did this all day and toward the end of the afternoon, and so Moses was tired of having his hands up. So his two buddies, Aaron and her, they go over up and they say, sit on this rock. They help hold his hands, pray. Well, I don't know exactly how that happened, but Moses was asking God for help. And he was doing it all day during the battle. Like the woman was doing it every day with the judge. Give me a just decision. So I think if you ask Jesus how to pray, I think that's what he said. Be like the woman who bugged the judge. Ask and you shall receive. Seek, and you shall find. Knock, and it will be opened to you. And we do all three of those over and over and over again. I don't know if that's the best way to pray, but it seems to be the way we pray and how we pray the most often. Interesting. How do you pray? There's a sort of an epilogue to this little homily, and I find this to be very true because it applies to me. When I ask for God for help, when I ask help over and over again, it seems to be I sort of get tired of asking for the same thing. But I don't know if God gets tired of listening. What is prayer? Raising your mind and heart to God. And we raise our mind and heart to God, and probably most often we pray with petitions, with requests. Help me. Almost like little kids. Mommy, can I have something? No, you can't have something to eat because it's right before supper. Mommy, hey, Dad, can I have this? Can I do this? Petition, 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 over and over again. Sort of like children in a way. But the thing that I think the epilogue is, God really does want us to ask Him for help, to knock and pray and request. But the most important thing of that is we make so many of those requests, and so many are not that important. And so someone said once, I don't know who said this, probably many, 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 many people, God always answers your prayer. But you know what? Sometimes, often, the answer is no. No, you can't have cookies before supper. Before supper, you gotta wash your hand. I don't want to wash your hand. God, it's His way, like Mom's way or Daddy's way in our relationship with God. That's a little oversimplification, but it really, I think it's very descriptive. Sometimes God just says, no. Do it my way. Offer it up. Suck it up. Control yourself. That isn't the best way. The best way is to put it in the hands of God. Not my will, but yours be done. How do you pray? How often do you pray? And what kind of prayers do you say? Sure, we're all different, but some of those things, adoration and saying, I'm sorry for my sins, and all these requests, it's a good thing to think about. I hope you do pray and raise your mind and heart to God. And how, it's up to you. But these are just a few insights of Jesus in that Old Testament Moses and Aaron. But these were petition is good enough for me. Have a good day.